welcome to today's workshop looking at social media and its impact on our well-being. My name is Fiona Hall. I'm a counsellor and psychotherapist, and in today's workshop we're going to look at some of the possible downsides of social media. Personally, I'm on social media for work and I really enjoy it, and there's lots of really funny people out there, and some people use social media for staying in touch with friends and family, or fashion advice, or recipe inspiration, or maybe fitness. And that is great. However, there is a very fine line between when social media supports our well-being and makes us feel really good about ourselves, and then it flips into comparing our lives with what we perceive on social media, because many of the platforms on social media display a snapshot of somebody's life. It's like the highlights reel. It is not reality. It is not an everyday lived experience, and it can be so easy if we're perhaps having a bit of a bad time or we're feeling down and we go onto social media and then we see other people living their best lives. And then it can slip into a negative thought pattern, or why can't I have that life? And my life is no good compared to them, or I'm not as talented as these people. And then that can really knock our self-esteem and raise our stress and anxiety levels. And this workshop is ultimately about consciously questioning, is social media helping or hindering my well-being? Does it make me feel inspired and creative and happy? Or is it bringing me maybe to a place where I don't feel so good about myself? And that can really have an impact on your day-to-day life. So we're going to look at different aspects of social media just so you can question, is it helping or hindering your well-being? So the slide I just showed now, I hope will make you stop and think about social media and devices. If Bill Gates and Steve Jobs banned their own children from iPads and phones, question why? Do they understand that these things can have a negative impact on our lives? Or why is it in the most prestigious school in Silicon Valley, there is no devices, there is no technology. It's all making carts and cooking and knitting and practical life skills. So I always find that slide is a really good one just to make people stop and think, because that's what this workshop is about today. Consciously thinking about social media and how that is impacting on our well-being, because it can all creep in very innocently, and we then maybe are going through a bit of a rough time or a sad time. We go on to social media maybe looking for a bit of inspiration, or there's some really funny people out there. But if we find that we're then looking at people and a snapshot of their lives, their highlights reel where they're all happy and shiny and bright, and then we're starting to fall into a comparison, which we'll come to in a little bit later. Why are we doing that to ourselves? Have you ever sat down to question why you follow each and every person maybe on Instagram? What are you getting out of this? Is it making you feel supported? Is it making you feel inspired? Are you on it looking for fashion advice or recipes or fitness tips and things that will support your well-being and help you grow as a person? Or unbeknownst to yourself, you have started following people who you don't necessarily admire, but everybody else was following them. Or you maybe saw one article that you liked and you followed them, but you don't necessarily like the rest of their content. You can choose who you want to follow and what is that person bringing into your life. Is it making you feel better or is it making you feel less? So maybe even on a simple level, going through each of the people that you follow, is it helping or hindering? And unfollow and find other people who are your tribe, who maybe portray a more realistic version of life, because it's not possible to be happy all the time. And I'm telling you that as a psychotherapist and a mum and a person, because facing challenges in life helps us become resilient. It helps us figure out our strengths and our weaknesses, and it helps us grow as individuals. But this perception of being happy all the time, it's unrealistic and it's not true. So just, and again, another thing to bear in mind when you're on social media, some people are paid, that is their job, to be full of the joys of spring every morning because they're paid to promote products. And even around the promotion of products, do you feel that you're being influenced too much to buy things to have the perceived life that this person has? And do you even really need that stuff? Because when I'm not working as a psychotherapist, I am super passionate about decluttering and organizing and simplifying our lives. And if you are constantly being lured into buying things to buy somebody else's lifestyle, they'll just end up in boxes on the floor. I've seen that. I've been in people's houses where they've bought the latest face cream or suit or tie or fitness equipment because they want to buy into that lifestyle, but it's not their true and authentic self. And ultimately, these purchases that they've made compound how they're not the same as that person. And again, we're going back into, is social media helping or hindering your well-being? Comparison is the thief of joy, and never a truer word was spoken in relation to social media. And again, this is another red flag I would have if I was working with clients who were maybe struggling with their self-esteem. What is feeding into that? What are you telling yourself based on your interactions with social media? For example, I would always wonder, if you're following somebody and you suspect or know that they're doctoring their image in terms of changing face shape or elongating neck or, changing body shape, if that person is so happy with their image and who they are, why are they doing that? We don't know their full story because social media is a snapshot of people's lives. And the problem can arise then when clients want to match this unrealistic image, and then something that was supportive has now slipped into a negative because we're body shaming ourselves over an image that really is probably doctored, or we suspect it might be doctored. And again, we're going back to questioning, why am I following this person? What am I getting out of this experience and interaction? Maybe I used to enjoy following this person, but we're now heading into a territory where I need to make better choices for myself. I need to unfollow this person because it is dragging me down. It is not making me feel better about myself. And another way that clients can get into difficulty, or we can all get into difficulty, is, let's say, for example, you post up an image of an event that you were at. You felt you looked amazing, you were delighted with yourself, and you put up the image for friends and family to see. And then you start checking and checking and checking. How many likes did I get? Who's seen this? Why haven't they posted feedback on this? That is moving from an area of healthy to unhealthy. And let's take that further. Let's say, for example, you got 30 likes and you're sure you're delighted with yourself. You think, this is brilliant. I love this. I've got a real boost to my mood. And then you go and check posts from other people that you know were at the event. So you got, say, 30 likes, delighted with yourself. why are you going to check and see how many likes other people have got? And let's say, for example, they have 35 likes. So your immediate boost is gone. And the whole thing about these likes and checking comments, it's looking for external validation that you are worthy, that you look great. And the big problem I would have with external validation is that it can be taken away really quickly simply by going and checking images that somebody else posted who got more likes. And external validation is damaging because it's not within your control. It's within our control how we feel about ourselves. And if we look good and we want to post up an image, that in itself is all it should be. Or we see people on social media and they've got the latest, I don't know, trainers, makeup. They've taken photographs of themselves in expensive boutiques and look what I bought, and you know, I feel great in this. Did they actually buy it? Did they actually buy it? Because we could all go into shops today or tomorrow and take photographs of ourselves in expensive clothing or with expensive shoes or bags or briefcases and not buy it. We might have said we bought it, but did we actually buy it? Or take it one step further, you do buy it and you're outside the store with your little expensive carrier bag and look what I treated myself to. You could also just go back in and get your money back. Again, this workshop is about just questioning, is your interpretation of these facts correct? I mean, and another example, taking it to the next level, is I know of a certain app where you can buy empty Chanel, Gucci, whatever you're having yourself, carrier bags or boxes or tissue paper. And I could be sitting here with you today, behind me, Chanel bag, a Chanel carrier bag, a Gucci box, an Hermes bag. And the perception that you would get is that I had bought items from these brands or I'd been gifted items from these brands, when all I've actually done is buy an empty paper bag. So question, because I've done these workshops lots of times and people are like, no way. It was like, yes way. Any one of us could go out and create a false image of our lives. But the problem with that is the further you get away from your true authentic self by recreating a fantasy life, the more problems you're going to encounter, because this isn't you. And if you start down that road, then you have to keep down that road, and it just makes life very, very complicated and it's unnecessary. So just to bear in mind, am I comparing myself negatively to people I follow on social media, and how am I going to stop that going forward? Another aspect to spending a lot of time on social media that perhaps you haven't considered is isolation. Because if you are at home right now, scrolling through social media and following people or unfollowing people, chances are it is something that you're doing by yourself. And it can make us either feel very supported or it can make us feel negative thoughts about ourselves. And at times, our thoughts can become facts. That you're looking at somebody and let's say they're away on another holiday and you're like, oh, I don't have that kind of life and I wish I had that kind of life, but I'll never have that kind of life. And then a thought becomes a fact and we start acting on those facts. But the thing is, our thoughts are not facts. They are just thoughts. And particularly if this is something you're doing at nighttime and you've had a really difficult day and you're feeling just a bit wiped and maybe low mood, and you're now on social media looking at your perceived perception of somebody else's wonderful life with all the bells and whistles. And before you know it, it can really drag your mood down, and you can believe that this is this person's real existence without factoring in that we all have sad times, we all have challenging times. And if you find yourself maybe not going out with friends or family or to events because you're like at home scrolling and it's brought down your mood and now you don't want to go out, it's further increasing that sense of isolation, because you're not interacting as much maybe with other people because you're so caught up in this world that you believe to be real, but it's not. And it can, again, it can slip in very silently and chip away at our self-esteem, and then we scroll more, and then we scroll more, and then before you know it, 4 hours of your life have passed. 4 hours of your life that you will never get back. And just to question, is this helping or hindering my well-being? Am I spending too much time on social media, on my devices? And again, ultimately, where is this going to? And even, there are lots of apps where you can check how much time have I spent today scrolling on social media, because everyone drastically underestimates how much time they've been online. So again, that might be another thing that you can do to do a little reality check. How much time am I spending online? How much time am I isolating away from other people? Because we as humans need real interaction with people, and we're very sociable people. And if you're spending more time in a fantasy world, ultimately that's not going to help how you feel about yourself, and it's not going to affect your well-being, and it'll start to spread through other aspects of your life. So just to be mindful of how much time are you actually spending on social media, isolated from reality. We're now going to look at FOMO, the fear of missing out. And this is something that really can creep in, again, affecting our well-being when we're looking at people that we follow who seem to be out and about living my best life, and you aren't by comparison. And what ultimately is that going to do to how you feel about yourself? Because I know for a fact from people that I've spoken to over the years doing workshops, clients that I've worked with, and indeed perhaps yourself, you've gone to an event where you're happy, shiny, bright face, all, smiles for the camera, and inside you would rather be anywhere else than where you're at. Because it is possible to feel lonely in a room full of people. If you have to go to something, or you feel that you have to go to something because you don't want to miss out on something, where in all honesty you'd rather be home on the sofa in your jammies. So, and again, how is this impacting on us? If you feel that maybe you would like to increase your social life, or you'd like to go and explore new places, do that. Rather than thinking, oh, well, these people that I follow, they've all of these wonderful lives. Again, it's not reality, it's a snapshot. And instead of using it to, well, I don't have that kind of life and I'm never going to have that life, doing little things for yourself, day trips, going out for coffee with friends, going to the movies, doing something that you enjoy. And is it as flash and fancy maybe as somebody else's life? No. But if it makes you feel happy and engaged, that is what it's important. Because, I mean, if you think of it another way, it must be absolutely exhausting for some people on social media to have to pretend to be happy all of the time, and to pretend that every event that you go to is wonderful and amazing when inside you don't feel like that, but you have to put on this false pretense because maybe you were paid to go to an event, or it is a work thing that you need to do, and inside you would rather be anywhere else, but you have to do it. And I could think personally of nothing worse than having to get dressed up 3 nights a week to go to a load of events every week, week on week, to put on my happy, shiny face, when inside I don't feel like that. Inside, I'd rather just be at home, snuggled up on the sofa. So it can be very tempting to want this perception of somebody else's life, but you're assuming that this is what they want to do all of the time. I would question that, because it must be absolutely draining to have a new outfit every single time you go out, knowing that you are going to be judged on your appearance. Were you having a good time, your interactions with people, and basically having to put on a performance? I could think of nothing worse. So again, reality check. Your perception of what that person's life is, but would you really want that for yourself? Out every night, having to perform, because if we think about it, I'm not sure that very many people would want that. We're now going to look at how social media can make us feel anxious and depressed, because we can all go through difficult times in our lives where maybe we're just low mood, or we just don't feel like adulting. So we go on to social media for a bit of a boost or to lift our mood, and then we get caught up in, they've got a better life than me, or I don't have that. And this can make us feel stressed and anxious and unable to cope with our own reality. So what do? We go back onto social media again to try again, looking for this boost, and it's like nearly compulsive behavior. And again, there might be somebody else whose picture got more likes than you, so we're getting back into this self-perpetuating negative cycle. And it can be quite isolating, as we spoke about earlier on, because often we scroll when we're by ourselves. And what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Are we scrolling because we don't want to face our problems in our real life? And when we don't do that, or we use like an avoidance strategy, such as social media, to avoid dealing with things, these situations or challenges in our life can become bigger and bigger, and we get more worried about dealing with them. So we've developed an avoidance strategy. But that avoidance strategy is not supporting how we feel about ourselves, and can make us feel less, because we're avoiding what we need to be doing over here. And again, we don't always reality check with ourselves. This is not a real person's true existence. It is a snapshot. It's a highlights reel of how somebody else lives their life. And what is more important, your commitment and your investment into some random person that you're never going to meet, or yourself? And I think we owe it to ourselves to monitor how our interactions with social media are making us feel. Is it making us feel less? Is it making us feel more? Is it making us feel that we're not good enough? Or again, there's some very funny people on social media. Checking in with yourself. Let's say you have a base level of, say, 2 for anxiety. When you come off social media, like, do this little exercise with yourself. How do you feel now, having come off social media? Have you found something that will inspire you to take up a new hobby, or bake something, or you've come across this really nice recipe that you'd like to try? So it's supporting without becoming too invested in random strangers. Because that's the thing about social media. You may occasionally like have an interaction but you don't know these people unless you've physically met them. And for a lot of people, that's highly unlikely, and you're never going to meet these people. So why is their life more important than your life? Are there things that you would like to change about your life? Because there's lots of us have things we'd like to change about our lives. And you can use social media to support that. But just be mindful, are you getting caught in this negative cycle of feeling stuck and there's stuff I want to change about my life, but rather than do that, I go and live in someone else's life. And again, that might just be about restricting your access to social media for a day. See how you feel about that. And instead of spending 2 hours on social media, could you phone a friend, meet someone for lunch? If there's a course that you'd like to take or a book that you'd like to read, and using that energy to invest in yourself so you can feel happier with your life choices and you don't need this external validation, and you can accept that what you're seeing on social media is a form of escapism or a form of inspiration, but to be able to separate out that this is just a fantasy world and I can take little bits of that and bring it into my own life to lower my stress and anxiety levels, but to be mindful that it's not tipping the other way in terms of comparing, or you're isolating so much because you've been caught up in this negative loop. And it's just about fact checking this with yourself. Is this helping or hindering my stress and anxiety levels? Is this making me feel depressed because I'm now caught up in this comparison situation? Social media can be an amazing tool, but it can also sometimes be your worst enemy. So even taking time to figure out, how does my mood change after I come off social media? So we're now going to look at how social media can affect our sleep. Because often, if clients or myself or friends or family are having difficulty sleeping, we wait until the end of the day to kind of get ourselves relaxed. But without getting into all the technical thing, there are two different aspects to sleep. One is restorative, like cell generation and resting our bodies. And the next function is processing all our thoughts and, different things that we've done throughout the day. So let's say, for example, you got up in the morning and straight on to social media. Number one, that would be a red flag for me, because you're going from sleep into a fantasy world. But let's say, for example, you do that and that's your kind of little routine. Check in with yourself. Can you do something that's more supportive? But let's say you've gone on and you've checked through 40 or 50 different people, and every time you do that, it's like opening another tab in your head. I must come back to that recipe, or I like that top, or I'm never going to look like her, or that person's on holidays again. Boom, boom, boom. In the space of half an hour, you could have opened 30, 40 tabs in your head. Thoughts, processes. How am I feeling about myself? Am I comparing myself? So your brain can get really overworked within the space of a half an hour. And then say for your 11th is back in again on social media. Maybe you're checking, you posted a picture. How many likes have I got? We're getting back into external validation. Then on your lunch break, how do you spend your lunch break? If it's scrolling, again, another little red flag. Because the more you go into other people's lives, the less you're bringing into your own life. Instead of going for a walk, reading a book, making a phone call, checking in with friends, making plans. These are all things that we can add to our life. And let's say 4 o'clock again, afternoon coffee, and we're back on social media again. And after dinner, how do you spend your evenings? Is it back on social media again? Because you're flicking through all of these images, you're reading other people's posts, and again, opening more and more tabs, and then you come to sleep time and not a chance. Can't sleep. What'll I do? I'll go on social media again, and more tabs opening. Whereas earlier, as we said, if you could track how much time you spent on social media through various different apps, you would be really surprised as to how much time you spend watching other people live and not refocusing that energy and that commitment to ourselves, because we perceive other people's lives to be a lot more interesting than ours. And that's not true. We have our own one true life to live. And just be mindful, are you slipping off into somebody else's life, or are you back in your own life? Because all of these tabs need to be closed in order to try and get a restful night's sleep. So again, just checking in, how much time are you spending on social media? How is that making you feel? Because it will affect your sleep, because there's so much to process, or else you're feeling negative thoughts about yourself, or your brain feels like it's overwired with all of these images that we've seen or interactions that we've had online. So again, just check in. It may be, for some people, I just don't go on the phone after 7 o'clock. I'm going to be consciously in my own life and not be living in someone else's life. Or it might be, I'm not going to check the phone first thing in the morning. And I would advise that to all my clients. Stay away from the phone first thing in the morning. You know, get yourself, make your bed, get something to eat, get dressed, be consciously in your own life, and try and make that your new habit. So we're just coming to the end of today's workshop, looking at social media and the impact it can have on our well-being. I hope you found the information useful, and at the end of the day, it's not about totally coming off social media if you find it helpful and supportive. It's literally just about questioning, is this helping or is this hindering? And to be able to differentiate fact from fiction. Because if we're looking at people that we follow and we think this is their true and only existence, that's incorrect, because social media is a snapshot of somebody's life. It's not their true and absolute existence, because we all have sad times. We all face challenging times. Just most people choose not to post it. They post the happy stuff, or they're paid to post happy stuff because that's their job. So in terms of like takeaways from today's workshop, it's basically just re-examining the impact social media is having on your well-being. Is it helpful and inspiring and make you feel creative? Or has it tipped over into an unsupportive tool for your well-being, because you've slipped into a comparison frame of mind, or a negative frame of mind, or you're not participating as much in your own life because you become invested in the lives of mainly random strangers that you are never going to meet, and questioning, why am I doing that? How could I be more in my own life? How can I use the advantages of social media to create different aspects of my life, or to make me feel better about myself, or to learn new things, or to just laugh when you're feeling a bit down, because there are some very funny people on social media. So it's more about, how are you using it? What are you getting from that experience? And what would you like to change? Are there people who you just need to unfollow because they're irritating you, or you're getting caught in this negative loop, and just hit the unfollow button? It's really that simple. And then using it to find ways to make you happier. whilst understanding that all of these people that you see who are happy all the time, that's just not possible because life does have challenges. So I hope you've enjoyed today's workshop and maybe look at changing your social media habits. Take care now.